We'll call the roll.
Mr. Barker?
Here.
Mr. Farley?
Here.
Mr. Green?
Here.
Dr. Hutton?
Here.
Ms. Gray? Mr. Rich?
Here.
Mayor Goodwin?
Here.
We have four.
Oh, you want? We'll have the invitation call.
As we gather this evening, let us be aware of this opportunity to come together in service to our community. Our most serious duty is to look to the community we share and make decisions with courage and daring leadership. As we participate in democracy this evening and beyond, let us keep the horrific Ukraine conflict in our thoughts and remember these words spoken by Pope Francis. True happiness and freedom do not lie in possessing, but in sharing, not taking advantage of others, but in loving them, not in the obsession of power, but in the joy of service.
All right, so, Folly, you step right up front here with me.
I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good job. Mayor.
Mayor. Thank you. Good job, Folly.
Want to get extra credit in school for that? Okay, so we have the our honor to have our field services manager. Your first trip as field services manager here.
It
right?
is, yes,
I
sir.
thought it was right. You're much prettier than the last one. For a presentation.
Thank you, Mayor Goodwin, for having me. There's some familiar faces. I think Councilman Walker, I know. I was formerly the town administrator for James Island up until about a month ago, so I'm excited to get to work with Folly. They've added a third field services manager to the Municipal Association of South Carolina, so Folly Beach will be in my territory, and I'm so glad to be here to present you all with the Municipal Elected Officials Institute of Government 2022 honor roll. So the Municipal Elected Officials Institute it's been around since 1986, and this is the program that really gives elected officials the knowledge and tools to make the best decisions possible for your communities, and it's been a model for many other states across the nation, many of which are mandatory. Ours is not, it's voluntary, so kudos to you all for participating in this, and congratulations, you were one of 11 this year to receive this honor, so congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, appreciate it.
It is nice to have folks go to school. So now I ask Colleen to step forward for a moment. So this is a joy for Colleen, and not so much a joy for some of us. We miss you. You ready to come back here? Come on. You've been gone a couple of days now. So this is just a little dedication plaque for your 6 years of service. It didn't seem like it was that long, but I guess it was. For the people of Folly Beach, and to start this new position, they're going to have hard shoes to fill. So congratulations on your endeavors, and we miss you already.
Oh, thanks. I miss you guys too. I really do.
Part of the process was you had to learn public speaking. So now we've got a 10-minute speech.
No. Well, thank you very much, and to the mayor and president and past city council members and president and past administrators, Aaron Pope and Spencer Wetmore, and my colleagues out here that I miss already. Thank you for the opportunity, for believing in me and the new position. You know, I came in as municipal clerk and I got my certification here, so also thank you for that. And as community coordinator, it really broadened my skills that I didn't know I had, I think. I don't know. But it worked well, and because you guys believed in me and gave me opportunity without necessarily micromanaging, if you will, like my family doesn't know much. I was able to shine, and I did it because of you guys. And I also want to thank my family, and they're stuck with me 24/7, so you guys please check on me. But thank you guys for your support too.
Thank you again for those years that you did put up with us. And your family for letting us have it. Thank you. So we have a staff report from Mr. Pope on commercial rezoning.
So just want to give everyone, I know we got some folks in the audience who are following this, an update on the commercial rezoning. The next kind of public meeting for the commercial rezoning ordinances will be on April 4th, and we'll check that date. That will be the first Monday in April 4th. That's the planning commission meeting day, and they've offered that session for that time for another joint work session with you guys. So April 4th at 6 o'clock, and we'll have the city council. And the purpose of that joint work session is, at the last joint work session, you guys finalized the proposals. Now we have drafted the ordinances to implement those proposals, and we're going to go over them at that work session for y'all, the planning commission, and the public, so everyone can.
But if that's going to be a joint work session, to do what you just said to do, it would be better after April 5th. Because of the election the next day.
All right, so hold that date. And Monday in April, the next meeting that we'll consider the commercial stuff will be a day in April after the election. So right now we're at 7 ordinances and counting to amend all the different pieces, so to put these proposals in motion. So we wanted to have one more chance for everyone to get a clear understanding what exactly the proposals are, what exactly each ordinance is, which properties will be rezoned for what. So that'll happen in April. In April at the city council meeting, city council hopefully will remand those to the planning commission for public hearing. The actual formal public hearings for all these ordinances will happen at the May planning commission meeting. And that's the official legally required public hearing. And then it'll be back to city council at their May meeting for first reading, and if it passes, to be made pending, just in time for the moratorium to expire. So, got a date to be announced, and we'll communicate to all the folks who've been involved in the process. We'll hold a joint work session, one more review of all the ordinances, then the public hearing, and then reading at council. So that's coming in April and May.
Thank you. Mr. Lutz, since you have half the package today.
Just wanted to let you guys know some good news. We just received notice from FEMA through ISO that we are improving once again our CRS rating from a class 4 to a class 3. About 4 years ago, pre-COVID, we had gone from a 7 to a 4, which was a pretty big deal at the time. But due to all the hard work of mostly the downstairs front office group, on permitting and inspections, we've finally been able to improve to a class 3, which takes us to a category where we enjoy a 35% reduction in flood insurance premiums across the board in the whole jurisdiction. So that would that applies to any property on Folly Beach or within our jurisdiction. And it's kind of a cool thing. We're one of 8 municipalities in the nation that achieve this rating. So that's pretty neat. A good reflection on the whole city hall team. It is a team effort for every bit of, the regulation is pretty intense and the documentation we have to do is pretty intense. There is I know the slides are in your packet, I don't know if you have any particular questions regarding this program or how it works, but it's labor intensive, and thank you for approving the budget to have our consultant. Again, a consultant would help us get to a 4 years ago, and now to a 3 this year. Pretty exciting. And we do have to maintain that. It takes a lot of work and about $5,000 a year to maintain the consulting fees, and then every 3 years we get re-audited with a full-blown audit. Let's go through it all again. But hopefully we can keep it where we're at and maintain it.
And this savings is on top of the savings that we got when the FEMA changed their flood maps?
Yes, sir.
So just imagine how much your flood insurance would be if you would.
No, it was hard for me to imagine how much it decreased when FEMA changed their flood status. Now savings on top of this, it's thousands of dollars a year.
I know you guys get probably lots of complaints about some of the stuff we put people through for permitting and inspections and documentation, and this is where it all pays off. Aside from life safety.
Thank you, sir. Okay, have approval of the agenda, have a motion to approve. Second. We do have one withdrawal from personal appearances. The pickleball folks withdraw their appearance for tonight. Call the roll.
Mr. Rich?
Yes.
Ms. Ray?
Yes.
Dr. Hooten?
Yes.
Mr. Groom?
Yes.
Mr. Farley?
Yes.
Mr. Parker?
Yes.
Ms. Goodwin?
Yes. Have the approval of minutes from February the 8th.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Any corrections or additions? Okay.
Mr. Groom?
Yes.
Mr. Farley?
Yes.
Ms. Ray?
Yes.
Dr. Hooten?
Yes.
Mr. Rich?
Yes.
Mr. Parker?
Yes.
Mr. Goodwin?
Yes.
Passes.
So now, your personal appearances and the race for life is up. I don't want to butcher your last name.
It's okay, it's Denza.
Denza?
It's not as hard as it looks.
No, you just have to get the right pronunciation.
Yes. But it's not that bad. So I guess more if there are questions for me for the race, I know that, and actually this is the first time I saw Colleen in person. I've been dealing with her so much over the phone and over email. So it was nice to see her for 5 seconds. But I know I spoke with everyone here August, I believe, and talked about the race, having this event here on Folly, and I was hoping our race director could join us tonight, but he is not with me tonight. So I'm happy to answer any questions about the event. We're excited for it to be here, and we are bringing this back in person this year. Last year we did kind of a hybrid virtual type event. The previous year was right before everything shut down for COVID. So we have been at James Island County Park for many years, and this is the 17th year of this event. So we're pretty seamless in terms of the operations and how it starts, and we have a great volunteer team that comes out from our staff and just community volunteers. But just a little bit of background for the event. It's I'm with We Are Sharing Hope South Carolina, which is the organ procurement organization for the state. And so we're a nonprofit, but we are federally designated, and we serve the people of South Carolina who are waiting on a gift through organ eye transplant. So currently there's over 1,500 South Carolinians waiting on a gift through donation, but over 116,000 in the US. So our role is that if someone has said yes on their license, we honor that decision. If the time comes that you are able to be a donor, we're the ones who are in the hospital. We work with UNOS to figure out where everything is going, and then with our hospital partners to make that gift possible, honoring the decision of the hero, and then also also supporting the family of that loved one as they continue on after they leave the hospital, honoring their hero who made that decision. So to bring it full circle, the race is one of those events that we have where families and transplant recipients come together, and it's one of the few times out of the year that they get to be in the space at the same time. Some families and recipients never get to meet the person who their loved one might have impacted, but this is a chance to say, this is James, he's a heart recipient, and he might not be your heart recipient, but he is a heart recipient, and this is the impact that your loved one made. So this event brings everyone together. Because of the nature of the work that this is obviously dealing with people who are much more health compromised, I don't foresee this year being as big as it would have probably been in the past, because the reality is the donation and transplant community, especially recipients, are still very reserved and just being out, even outdoors. So I don't think it will be as many people when we first put our application in previous to the August meeting last year. So we currently have about 250 people registered. I think we'll be close to 350 in person. We'll probably have over 400 actually registered, but we do have an at-home option that people can do to just support the event in general. And we have, so far, most of our major sponsors are confirmed, and they're excited to be back in person. So I guess more in here to answer your questions about it, if whatever those might be, and give you peace of mind that we have a great support team. We have about just over 100 employees in our organization, and if they're not running the event that day, they are here to help, to volunteer, give directions, whatever that might be. And then obviously our volunteers in general.
Okay, well, there's a few concerns that's really come up since August. One is, it seemed like in the past years, we looked it up, races were in February.
It was.
So blocking the street off in February is a problem. Blocking the street off on a weekend in April, which happens to especially be the first weekend of spring break for Charleston County schools, is going to be a real problem. I don't foresee that happening. I don't know about the rest of these folks, but I'll give Chief Gillick a moment to speak to it for a minute.
Sure. First of all, I feel like the world's largest ranch after your talk. But I made sure to let them know it has nothing to do with them or their organization. Of course not. This came up during our staff event committee meeting that we sent everything to on Monday. And the first thing I thought, because my wife just recently told me, like, when spring break starts, and I'm thinking to myself, wow, you know, the first Saturday of Charleston County spring break on a Saturday in April, shutting down East Arctic and get people crossed over East Ashley and Cooper and back and whatnot, that's a huge ask. And the time in which that it sounds like the race is going to go on, that's going to be a significantly busy part of the day. I mean, as you guys know, we're a small staff. It's a huge ask. I know she did mention that they have a lot of volunteers, but again, there's certain things that volunteers can do, and there's certain things that officers have to do, and so it's a huge ask for the agency at an extremely busy time. And so that was brought up during the staff meeting. That's what I told her that I was going to say if asked today. So full disclosure. So that was, you know, as part of the whole event committee meeting. That's why I came back to y'all for consideration about those other variables. So.
Is that the only hiccup from your end? Is that it's on spring break weekend?
Yeah, we got to staff it. It's not going to be a one officer thing. I mean, it's
right.
going to take some.
How many officers do you think? Because I saw the invoice. I think it's a very small invoice.
Yeah, because historically it was based on doing this in February.
I got you.
And so it's just a big difference. So one, I think we got to find guys that are willing to work at a busy time. It's going to take guys at every intersection, every start, move point. It's just traffic.
So you need a guy at every intersection this race is going on at, and the map is still the same.
I mean, it's just. I mean, y'all know it's going to be Saturday, the first spring break for Charleston County. It's going to be a zoo, and this is an extremely busy time of the day. It's a big ask for small staff. That's my concern. That's the only concern. It has nothing to do with their group or what they're here to represent. It's just
Does it have to be that weekend? Could it be postponed until, call it deeper into the fall, for instance?
As far as, it would really probably change obviously the language that we've been pushing out. We do have a lot of people that travel in for it because it's people across the state. April is also National Donating Life Month, so it kind of tied it all together, which is why we moved it from February to April. So that was a big draw. And we were trying to make it as early as possible in April to align with not getting into your season here.
Normally that'd have been a great idea, but Charleston County Spring Break kind of changes that one on us with no fault of any of ours. Why did y'all move it from James Island County Park to out here?
We were really looking at what the future of this event is going to be, and James Island County Park has been great. We've been there for a long time, but we were looking at where we want to be going forward and what this event is going to be able to bring, especially in Charleston. And so knowing how much we grew over a few years, and then when I came on the team in 2020, that was our most successful year yet, and not just because but our team in general changed a lot of things. Also part of the course, if anyone is a big runner and you're doing the races there, they have part of it that actually goes through a lot of mud, and we got a ton of complaints about that. So we were trying to shift where we were going to go, and our race director does the Save the Light race here. So he was like, you know, this is a great place where we have this other event, and I already do all of the pieces of that there. So it's like, it would be, if you can get on the calendar and get approved, it would be a great place to have it, and then going forward. That's really good with them.
Right.
About 5 questions.
5, okay.
Okay.
Great.
I
might need to take
Okay,
choices.
that's a warning for everyone. I say that lovingly. All with love, my friends. Okay. What is the exact number of your registries today?
I checked before we left my office, and it was 248.
Okay, so 248 from 500. Next, this is your map.
Yes.
Okay,
we're doing with the approved route.
I understand.
Yeah.
Okay. Is there an accommodation, and I don't know, is there an accommodation, or is this a done deal? Is there any other way to administer this other than this, blocking all of this on Folly?
That's our approved map. That's what we use for all races because it has the least amount of impact.
Okay, least amount of impact. Okay. My other question would be, did you look at all towards the county at the end? Okay, yes, give me more, please.
So last year we actually did our in-person option. We kind of had a parade of celebration.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't want people to get out and really gather, so we did that there last year.
With how many numbers?
In person, we probably had 60-ish people
60-ish.
that showed up.
Yep.
As far as registrants, we had 189 last year, or 186 that actually registered to support the event.
You did it on the other end. Time was the same? Was the time?
We didn't host the actual race last year. We just had kind of a drive-through near the park, and our staff was able to just be there and celebrate people that came out. So it wasn't getting out of the car. It was everyone decorated their cars, and
it was February.
It was April last year.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
When did we approve this event?
It first came in August.
This
Come
year,
back later.
this year or last year?
Well, it's been 21.
Who's us?
Anybody else?
Yeah.
All right.
Dr. Hogan? Oh, side with me. No.
Mr. Grooms,
She's the new future, mayor of Folly, right here.
Mr. Farley,
I'm serious.
Mr. Barker,
Great, no.
Ms.
Put it on the
Ray,
record.
No.
Mr. Rich,
No.
Mayor Goodwin.
No. See if we can work out another time but summertime, you know, our season for spring break, believe it or not, started March the first. That was the first group to hit here with spring breaks. And, you know, we think that time stops, but we had one good weekend in February and it was like the 4th of July out here. So, you know, people are ready to get out of the house, they're ready to go to the beach, and as time goes on, spring and summer is just a terrible time to try to. If you were just running down the beach in the early in the morning between 6 and 9 or something like that, you probably could get away with it, but just to block the streets off with the traffic is terrible. And
And
that's the problem.
Is there the option of having it earlier in the morning versus the start time at
Well,
if we transitioned it?
Well, you know, the chief and I, we talked about what, 6 a.m. to 9 a.m.? I mean, cut off at 9, you're out of here. So, because then the traffic is starting to back up. But that's gonna be kind of hard if you have 300 people.
Is that something that is that a consideration if we're able to do that?
You'd have to come back and ask these guys. But I mean, y'all can give her a consensus now if you thought.
If they could be done by 9, I'd be okay with that. But it's anything later than that on spring break weekend is just too big.
I'm willing to get creative.
Yeah, I originally thought the same thing, but I saw you required 6 a.m. to 2 p.m., so I didn't see how we could go any earlier.
So that, and I probably should have better explained that, we put that in just for the application process to really understand what the time frame of that day is gonna look like. The race itself is pretty short. The overall process of it, our start would be 9 o'clock at what the current timeline is, what we submitted. That included like coming in, probably setting up for an hour, and then if we started at 9, everything race-wise and the presentation after, just acknowledging anyone who was in the higher bracket, we're usually done. We've never been on site at least by 11:30. I'm usually home unpacking things. So that just really built in like a full breakdown and everything, just in case. But if the option is there, if we just have to start earlier and do that, only because tomorrow would be a month beforehand. So.
Kinda sounds like at this point, if you can get it done by 9, we're okay with it, just work with the special events committee and the mayor. And if you can please them, I think that would please us.
But the other thing I would say, 9, you can finish by 9. Do you know how many officers it takes on that map? I can't find a map.
We can do that with 2, like on any, like we do typically, we do it with 2, like on any February, January day when there's not tons of traffic.
So if you think you did it from 6 to 9, you can do it with 2 people?
Yes.
Okay. I got it. He did it. He did it. So that's your only out, looks like. So if you can make that work and get back in touch with Chief Gilbert, or who's in touch with the special events committee?
Wes is usually the
Wes.
point of contact.
In touch with Mr. Wesley?
Okay.
See if that'll work,
Okay.
hopefully.
I will talk with them tonight,
All right.
tomorrow morning.
Thank
You
you,
guys
thank you very much.
Thank you.
I apologize.
So, just timeline, she's talking about doing it in a month. So does it come back to us for approval, or?
If it goes through the events committee and gets approved, then it's approved.
Okay.
The events committee kick it back to us tonight.
There's no need for us to meet again. on
No.
that.
So we're saying if it's cleared by 9, pretty much, I'm hearing.
Yep.
Okay, that's what I'm hearing.
Okay. Thank you.
We'll see what kind of magic we can do.
Okay, hopefully it'll work.
Hopefully. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Okay. So, citizen comments? Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir.
Excuse me?
Yes, sir.
I know it's supposed to be authority. thought I was dead, but that's okay.
I see you at the post office once in a while, I knew you still did.
Senator James J. 1215, Trafford Drive. It was very appropriate, Eric, to stand up here and tell me that FEMA is well excited about how well we do on flooding. We on Tabby Island, Tabby Drive, 13th Street, are not excited about this. We've had flooding for years. We have listened to most of you tell us how you were going to handle it, how it was going to be approved and berms built and everything was going to go away. We're going to raise the road 2 years now, at least 2 years. Does anybody got a clue how bad Tabby Island gets when the tide comes in?
Sure.
Has everybody seen the pictures?
Yep.
And you won't do a damn thing about it.
It's not that we won't do anything
Won't do a
about it.
damn thing about
Okay.
it. Why not? You have the money. You have people down there paying a bunch of money for taxes. 50% of the neighborhood is now what we call rentals, okay? And you won't do a damn thing about it. That's sad. Does anybody have anything to say? Tell me now.
I told you already, they're
You told me nothing.
They're working with the stormwater guys, trying to work out a deal. Hey, we cannot move any faster than the county moves.
Okay, very fast on that.
That's it. Thank you, Jim. Anybody else?
John McFarland, 1780 Chelwood Circle, Charleston. Talking to you tonight about the commercial rezoning, and I'm trying to get in front of it a little bit. I know what you're trying to do, and that's great, but you're reducing, right now, you can build something up to 10,000 square feet of housing, and that's way too much. But I want to point out to you that you're focused on residential over business, and if you do that, that's fine. But the buildings are still going to be pretty large, 7,000 plus the space for business. So I don't think you're reducing it enough. I'm suggesting to you that the aggregate square footage for a full-size lot be cut in half or a little more, maybe 4,500, instead of the 7,000 that you're going to have. So I'd like you to really think about that, because there's no cap on this one, and I think you need to cap it, otherwise it's going to be through the roof. And while you're doing this, picking this new number for the aggregate square footage for a full-size lot, you should include B&Bs, small inns and hotels at the same time. Pick a number and it'll umbrella everybody. And then I think in the long run, it'll be easier for those of us that still have property to be flexible and develop. Thank you.
Anyone else? No commissioner board reports tonight. The old business is ordinance 4-22, ordinance amending insurance requirements for special events and requiring insurance of a city permit for certain events. This is the second reading. Have a motion for approval. So moved. Have a second.
Second.
Any discussion?
Yes. I'd like to consider making an amendment. I spoke to Aaron, and I think Aaron conferred with Mr. Wilson about adding some of the handout. I think it's adding some language regarding events that were not included for us to be an additional insured, and making us an additional insured.
Does everyone have a copy of there's a copy of this amendment with the text included? Everybody get that?
No. I got you. So good.
pages aren't marked, but it'd be the fourth from the back. It's like page 7. Where in blue it says insurance requirements for high-risk events, in blue is added, sporting events is added. And that, for the special event, that is a high-risk event and a sporting event. It was adding those to include the city as an additional insured, whereas before those were left out. Is that right, Mr. Wilson?
Yes, that and raising the required amount of insurance.
That was a separate amendment, somebody else had that.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry, I did not
And
realize
so
that.
this blue version does include, two proposed amendments from two different sources.
Oh, I'm sorry, I apologize.
And that, we had a big email chain going back and forth, so there were a lot of moving pieces. And so Mr. Farley's amendment would include the high-risk events and sporting events, as events that require the city to be named insured. And then the $2 million, limit increase for the insurance came from a discussion with Mr. Barker as a proposal to raise that limit for some of these things to increase the amount of insurance that we get. We did poll around to our peer communities for this. Two folks in Mount Pleasant, and I don't remember the other one, had the similar $2 million limit, and then the other folks had our current existing $1 million limit.
You say the other folks. Okay, would you like Charleston, or are you talking about Ravenel?
We poll Isle Palm, Sullivan's Island, Edisto, Mount Pleasant, James Island, and City of Charleston.
Okay. Separate up. Hollywood.
Okay, so the one amendment we're talking about now that's being proposed is just for the high-risk events and sporting events language. That was second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Yeah, Mr. Farley, this is your amendment, correct?
Yes.
What's the, what's the basis, what's the thing?
If we're not an additional insured, then the insurance that covers FAB could actually point the finger at us by adding us as an additional insured. That insurance would cover not only FAB, but would also cover the city.
But they're already covering us.
Not those were not events that were
Not those
included.
events right there, I got you, okay. Cool.
Anybody else?
Mr. Ray?
Yes.
Mr. Farley?
Yes.
Mr. Barker?
Yes.
Dr. Houghton?
Yes.
Mr. Rich?
Yes.
Mr. Green?
Yes.
Mayor Goodwin?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Did that include the 2 million, or is that a separate vote?
No, you'll make that motion now.
Oh, you'd like me to?
Yeah.
Okay, very well. I would like to make a motion to amend this particular ordinance to increase the insurance limit from $1 million to $2 million. I don't have a copy of it in front of me with the blue text, otherwise I'd cite it. I don't have it.
It's in a lot of places, it's all over.
Yeah.
So anywhere it said $1 million, it's going to now say $2 million.
Correct.
Either copy.
And this would be at no cost to the city. This is
Right.
the organizers of the events and such.
Do you have a second?
Second.
All right.
Same question posed to you, Mr. Parker, and especially knowing that other municipalities, only 2 out of, I think, 7 or 8 listed, have a $2 million policy instead of the $1 million policy. What's the big urge for us to move up to the top of the ladder? And then, A, do you have any examples of what premiums of that, what does that do to premium costs?
Yeah, I can't speak to premiums. I know Aaron reached out to 7 municipalities, of which 4 responded. 1/2 of those 4 were 2, indicated they had greater requirements than what we currently have, which is rather old. So I'm uncertain what the other 3 who haven't responded have done. Again, what I indicated last meeting is that $1 million of liability protection for something catastrophic doesn't go very far if there were severe injury or death to an individual. So I thought it best to have additional insurance. And at a high level, in the context of insurance, typically there's, of course, a cost to buy that first million. The incremental amount to purchase additional insurance is oftentimes significantly less than, in this case, the first tranche of coverage. would be. I just think it's prudent.
If this amendment were to fail in this reading, and you, never mind, sorry, second reading. Right, both changes on second reading.
Anybody else? Wait a minute, oh. Okay, here's a different.
Mr. Rich,
No.
Ms. Ray,
Yes.
Dr. Hooton,
No,
Mr. Broom.
No.
Mr. Farley,
Yes.
Mr. Barker,
Yes.
Mayor Goodwin,
Yes, and I should go to the record.
motion passed.
So I got a motion. This was highlighted this evening, page 3 from the front, should be in line with it, which kind of thing you have. Under 15306B, it would be all the way down at the bottom of page C. Right now it says that, you would not have any event that would interfere with public use of streets or beach for more than a half a block of the beach between May the 1st and September 9th. I'll make a motion, we move that from May the 1st to March the 1st to September 9th. Second,
second,
and the reason being is March the 1st, is because the 1st of March now begins spring breaks that we've already experienced, on the weekend.
If this was approved and passed tonight, then that would eliminate the race that we just told the lady to.
It would not count that race because we already get where that. I mean, I'll put that in as a qualification, it would not count race for life if they could work it out with the group. To begin with the next application.
Mr. Broom,
Yes.
Dr. Hooton,
yes,
Mr. Barker,
Yes.
Mr. Ray, sorry, Ms. Ray.
Yes.
All right. Mr. Rich,
No.
Mr. Farley,
Yes.
Mayor Goodwin,
Yes.
amendment passes.
Okay, I have 3 small ones. I don't know if you want to address them as one or potentially separately, Mr. Miller?
So if they're small ones, let's try.
No, they're not scriveners. So, the first is on page 38 at the very bottom.
So we don't have numbers, so what number? What
Okay, so
section
it's
number?
153.04. Mine have page numbers.
So in the version of the packet, has page number.
So 153.04, which reads additional rules for weddings and other events on the beach. Okay, letter C. After fireworks, elsewhere we have mentioned sky lanterns. Would we care to add sky lanterns following fireworks? It's a recent change that we've made elsewhere. It's on page 37.
Okay.
Okay, so that's number 1. You want to?
Yeah, let's go ahead and let's see.
Okay. On 44, sorry, you don't have page numbers.
No.
This is, it's letter K, insurance. There's a list of A through I of items.
150 what?
It's section 153.06, but it's a few pages deep into that section. So it's letter K, insurance.
Okay.
Found it. Letters A through I thought we might care to add the word contests. As we do have contests, oyster shucking, server Olympics, things of that nature.
I think we should do these separately.
You can, whatever the mayor's preference.
Well,
Yeah.
depending on, because that vote's gonna be a lot different from the one you said a minute ago. They're not similar items.
That's fair.
Okay, so we're back to the first.
So first,
So that'd be 153.04, C,
Correct. Adding the word sky lanterns following fireworks, so fireworks, sky lanterns, open fires, including tiki torches and such.
okay. So that's the motion, have a second?
Second.
All right. Any other questions or discussion?
Dr. Hurd,
No,
Ms. Ray,
Yes.
Rich,
Yes.
Grooms,
Yes.
Farley,
Yes.
Mr. Barker,
Yes.
and Goodwin,
Yes.
and Catherine.
Okay, so the next one would be motion on 15306, with a K,
Correct. Insurance.
and then you,
Adding to the list anywhere between A and I, the word contests.
just, wait a
It's
minute,
K, it'd be K one
K1,
J.
yeah, yeah. That would be, I'm just gonna say it has to be at the end.
And again, that was to include contests, some of which we currently allow for, hot dog eating contests, oyster shucking, server Olympics,
What's the exact language?
All right, so,
What's the exact?
just
language?
contests.
so under K 150-4006, letter K 1J, add the word contest. Would be the correct non-noise. Any discussion? Oh, I have a second, excuse me.
Second.
Any
Yeah.
discussion?
What, so just all contests in general, you're gonna deem as high-risk activities, along with fireworks and mechanical rides, that's what I'm getting. I'm just curious why the big push to add that as a high-risk activity, it's already protected. I don't see an oyster contest or, it's high risk. I mean, if somebody falls, you stand a chance of falling every day you walk around. I don't think that makes it high risk. This is just high risk things.
Right. Yeah,
So I'm just curious.
it could be a fall, it could be a severed artery from the blade they're using to open the oyster, someone's stomach could burst following eating hot dogs, things can happen. Server Olympics, again, somebody could fall and injure themselves,
Okay.
because they're running with plates.
I hear you.
How does this, translate to surf contests?
Well, that should be a high risk activity too, because that's a contest. They're playing with boards.
Activity every day out there.
I mean, those are high risk too.
Yeah,
Every contest we have is gonna be a high risk activity with this language.
and
I think it's a little over and above, personally.
do they not have insurance requirements today? I'm perfectly comfortable narrowing, it doesn't, in my opinion, have to be so broad as contests, if there are other language.
But surf contest, the wave can pop the board and hit them in the mouth and they can bleed off, or, they hit the rocks. So by your definition, that's similar. I think it's just completely over and above what the rest of it's going for, but I see where you're saying, but now you can't differentiate all the different contests that are out there. So you have to lump them all together.
Well, actually,
If you have a bean counting contest.
hang on a second before we get too crazy. Actually, the last thing we looked at a little while ago, again, it talks about sporting events. So a surfing contest would be a sporting event. Separate than this.
And would the ocean be considered public property?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say so.
I mean, and I guess if you're talking about, you used the example of, oyster shucking contest, so would that have to fall on that individual who's actually shucking, or the restaurant that they're working with?
To fall into the event, go to the restaurant, if one of my employees went to an oyster shucking contest, he would not be covered for an off-premise activity such as that. That would have to be the event. This is, once again, I'd like to see what the premium estimates would be with all these changes, because it could make some underwear that's completely unattainable. And I don't think any of us really want to see that. We just want to be covered. So I really, if it was a second reading, I was going to push to have some premium adjustment estimates, but a second reading. And a lot of this stuff completely changes some of these things. I think they're kind of borderline second reading changes to me. But
I don't think we've got that yet, but the contest might.
I mean, you're doubling, insurance numbers. A lot of this is, it's a my mind, for second reading, it's pretty close to changing.
Where's Mr. Wilson? Is this,
I think this, I mean, well, actually finish your question.
is the addition of contest, are we trying to make it too broad and cover ourselves? Is it already implied that these things would be covered, or are we pulling at straws, or is this something that our attorney would recommend?
I am a little bit worried about the breadth of the word contest. It's pretty broad. I mean, I can tell you, because I wrote this, that I think actually it was something we had before. This is just for special, we don't require this for every special event. We don't have these insurance requirements for every special event. We require them for festivals. We require them for sporting events like the races. And then we have this kind of high-risk event, right? That's literally what it says. So it's got to be something where there's a special event application coming into the town, first of all, just to put it in context. So that's why it's kind of directed towards things where people might get hurt, which is indeed what it tries to do. Fireworks and jump tassels and that sort of thing. I hesitate to go too far into criticizing amendments, but contest does seem a little broad.
I'll piggyback on what you just said a minute ago. I was looking back at this. Yeah, sporting events we already covered to a higher rate.
Yeah.
These other things that was listed here, like inflatable structures, we never thought was a high risk event until we talked to some insurance people, and that was like one of the first ones they listed, along with trampolines and, you know, petting zoos. You never know what the animals will do. So that's where this list come from, was actually like from insurance agents saying, this is what you need to put. I think contest might be just setting us out there too far, just to say contest. Yes.
My concern is, and I don't know what the answer is, the second reading. So mine will be processed and a second reading. But that's why I voted no for the first one. The second thing is, if we have several, even word changes, I will probably continue to say no. A definition of a contest. So that is probably where I'll be. I mean, we're gonna have a contest at the band camp. So mine's process, second reading, and then language does change my interpretation of the original document.
Well, one of your concerns, second reading, that's why you have two readings. You can make amendments. In the old days, you had three readings. You got to the third reading, you were voting up or down. That was it. But so first reading, second reading, it gives you a chance to make amendments. So just, but what the amendment is about is what you have to discern in your mind. Yeah. So what's the difference between a
scavenger hunt contest,
sandcastle building contest, and I don't know, a knife throwing contest or something?
And the kid can choke on a bucket of sand.
Yeah.
It could happen.
No, that's a good point though. For instance, like, you know, axe throwing is common now. If someone set up an axe throwing booth on Center Street, there's risk. What about the words high risk contests or
high risk activities is
it's
good.
definitely.
I think we already got them.
Okay.
Kind of where I'm at, but anyway.
I can withdraw that.
Well, you could just vote on it, and be just as easy.
Okay.
What it does, the line, in the previous line, it does say, high risk will include the following activities as well as any other activities determined to be high risk by city council.
Thank you for pointing that out.
All right.
Ms. Rich?
No.
Ms. Ray?
No.
Parker?
No.
Sparrow?
No.
Green?
No.
Dr. Hurton?
No.
Mayor Goodwin?
No.
I did. Mr. Collins' point. I did have one more.
Yeah.
On page 45, sorry, from page numbers. One page further than where we just were. Toward the bottom of the page, number 3. begins with insurance requirements for sporting events. Everyone in the location? Okay. So just adding the words, or the beach following on public roads. I know in the past we have had races on the beach, although it's been quite some time since we have done that.
So like a road car has to have insurance.
Here it says all of these things on public roads. Doesn't say the beach. That's what they say.
But if they're having,
All right. So, what you're saying is under 306, KF number 3.
No.
Never mind, hang on a
K-
second, hang on,
K3.
that's right above it.
K3.
Yeah, K3. Say what you want to add in there again.
Yes, so in the third line, following the word on public roads, we would add or the beach. So sporting events that involve persons running, walking, or bicycling on public roads or the beach must obtain and provide proof of appropriate liability insurance. So currently, if there were a race that were on the beach, arguably could point to this and say, insurance is not a requirement for me.
Yeah, that would probably be better. So instead of adding that on the beach, would you consider saying on public property instead of roads and beach?
Yes.
Say on public property.
Absolutely.
And that way it's all inclusive. So, all right, you've heard the motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion?
Rooms,
Yes.
Carlin,
Yes.
Ms. Ray,
Yes.
Mr. Rich,
Sure.
Dr. Houghton,
No,
Mr. Parker,
Yes.
Mayor Goodwin,
Yes.
and Mr. Patrick.
Okay. Is that it?
Yes.
Anybody else? Back to the ordinance 06-22 as amended. No, 04. As amended.
Mr. Parker,
Yes.
Mr. Farley,
Yes.
Mr. Green,
Yes.
Dr. Houghton,
yes,
Ms. Ray,
Yes.
Mr. Rich,
Yes.
Mayor Goodwin,
Yes.
Patrick.
Ordinance 06-22, ordinance to amend the qualifications of board and council, commission members to include a pre-appointment background check similar to those conducted for city employees. This is the first reading, have a motion for approval.
so moved.
Have a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Thank you. I have spoken with Aaron and Wes about this. I would like to make a motion that we add the word committees along with boards and commissions, as we do have some committees in the list at the bottom of that same page. Those individuals also being subject to background checks.
So the staff event committee is already done.
Correct. I think it's limited to community promotions committee. Staff event is staff, and Aaron was saying tourism and visitor promotion committee is, how do you describe it?
They're a separate legal entity from the city. So
Yeah, they're not even ours, basically. They don't report to us.
Correct.
They report to the state, different way.
So you suggesting that they may be removed from this list, TVPC?
Well,
and
there's, so there's separate,
There's only second. Oh, wow.
so the list is the specific boards, commissions, and committees that the city has established. That list won't change. It's the amendment.
Oh, wait a minute, no, you did it right. So this is right.
We have not had a second.
We had a motion, we haven't had a second on that motion. No, the second one's motion. You add the word committees. State, give us your motion one more time. You got the discussion.
Yes, I move to add the word committee, along with, let's see here, commission and board, as we do have committees comprised of individuals from the public who are similar to commissioners or board members, that we would also want a background check.
Second.
And you're putting that under the whereas.
Yeah, two locations. So the opening paragraph. And then in letter J, the new passage we read.
I have a clarification question.
Okay, hang on a second. All right.
Does this include mayor's advisory committees? Okay, okay.
It just makes sense. It's boards, commissions, and committees.
I understand.
Just throughout the whole thing, except for the part that got added, which just says board or commission.
What kind of background checks are we looking at putting people through? Because it's hard enough to have board and committee appointments as it is. And if we're gonna start nitpicking people with background checks and pull their traffic record and all that stuff, I mean, I know a lot of people are gonna be like, you know what, forget it, you know, and it has absolutely nothing to do, it's not like it's not like you're getting high security clearance somewhere. They're serving on a committee with their opinions about traffic or parks or short-term rentals or something. What does that have to do with a clearance and a background check that you would give an employee? I mean, it's just two planets here. Am I the only one seeing it? I mean, employees are one thing, we're paying them, they get clearance to come in certain areas and do things. This is just a committee. The parks or tax committee, we're gonna do background checks on them?
So the background there is, earlier today, we had a presentation from the Municipal Association of South Carolina, and in one of their newsletters, they advertised, if you will, as a best practice for municipalities that members of boards, commissions, committees, et cetera, have similar background checks as would be the case of our own staff. And I know in a recent meeting, you asked me, you know, what would be an example of something we might look for. And one of the things I'm hedging against here is how it looks optically for the city in the event something were to become known that, you know, we should have had the foresight. And an example might be, we appoint someone to the Board of Zoning Appeals, only to find out that 3 years ago, in a state far away, they were convicted of embezzlement because they took funds from an individual to influence a decision. And had we known by virtue of a background check that this person had been convicted of embezzlement or fraud, that may very well have influenced our decision to put them on that board.
I hear what you're saying, and if we were city of Charleston, you know, Columbia, a huge city with those issues, I would say, okay, I can lean a little more to you. But we're talking about people for parks and recreation boards and things like that. I can tell you, I've been on council for over 10 years. I think I've appointed one person to BZA. You know what I mean? It's very rare that those kind of things happen. So I'm like, where else would cogs like that happen? You're not talking about finance. These people aren't charging money or anything like that. I see what you're saying, but I think it's on us to do a little bit of due diligence on ourselves before we make those decisions. I mean, putting everybody through the ringer like that, to me, is very excessive and invasive into people's privacy. You're going to pick up, so they got picked up 5 years for a pot possession or a DUI. It has nothing to do with it. And it's really, kind of frankly, none of your business. And we're going to pull all that stuff for people like they're getting, you know, government clearance for something and they're just serving on Parks and Rec. Yeah, I think it's a little invasive for our level.
That everything that was returned in a pre-employment or background test or check would be disqualification. But better us know than not know and have that.
See, I think I value with privacy more than that. It's not better for us to know all that stuff that doesn't matter. That is somebody's private information that we're going to get for not enough reason.
We beat that horse, let's give somebody else a chance.
Okay, so the background checks presently are employees and council. Is that correct?
No, you don't get checked, you get elected.
No,
You
I did my little thumbs, I did my background check.
That's for,
That's not the
that's
case.
the police station.
Because you became a city employee.
Okay, okay, good. Okay, now, the next thing is then, we're including this in here. My next question is, I don't know if it's an Aaron Pope question or a Joe Wilson question. Don't we have insurance or some safeguard other than this to cover us in the circumstance that maybe one guy, I don't even know, to be honest with you, what could occur on those other places? Don't we have something already?
I'm not sure what your question is.
Insurance, mitigating things,
I mean,
how
we have
much of a high
insurance that
risk?
cover employees doing their jobs, but I still don't understand.
Okay, so no, these are just outliers that we have. Technically, I would see them as people that are volunteers that we don't need to insure, but the question is, we need to make sure that they have a clean record. I'm just trying to distinguish. Is that what we're doing?
So said differently, not necessarily that they have a clean record, nothing that would disqualify them from being in the role that we're appointing them to.
Understand. Thank you.
Anybody else?
So if you say you do the basic background check and he comes back with whatever information is on that person, where does that information go? Is it included in their application that comes in the council packet? Or is it private that, you know, if you ask the question, you get the answer, you know, where?
It's process, but I would think if there's a hit, it would be something we would discuss in executive session as like a staff matter. Potentially, again, I'm not trying to create the process as much as I am the guardrails to protect the city.
Well, for an employee, it would go through HR, and then that's where it would reside, and they would just say it's clean or it's not. So that would probably almost have to be the process for this. If you did a background check, anything would have to go back to the HR folks and reside in a file that's not public.
And technically, we are employees, the council.
Yeah, but technically, you don't get a background check. You get elected.
Mr. Rich's point.
Those
though,
folks do your background check.
Mr. Rich's.
Okay,
Mr. Rich's point, I think we should, really maybe only report felonies and not report back a criminal history check that involved misdemeanors. And that would protect, some of the privacy of the individuals that are applying, so, which would be your point. But I think to adopt a don't ask, don't tell is not really a smart approach. We should be asking questions so that we don't get embarrassed by having somebody who maybe has a felony sexual offense, and then we find out that nobody knew about it, but we put that person on Parks and Recreation Board. That would be a serious black eye, and I don't think we should say, don't ask, don't tell, and if somebody finds out about it, we'll just try to back our way out of it. We should ask those questions up front and have a relatively high bar that gets reported back to us.
I'm not encouraging criminals to apply that we should say, don't ask, don't tell. Obviously, I think it's a huge invasion of people's privacy for very mundane things, right? There's a way we could just get felony information back, that's one thing, but anything less than that is really none of our business. If somebody got a speeding ticket or, you know, DUI charge or anything like that, it's really not. And we have a hard enough time now getting people.
Let's do this. This is first reading. Let's postpone this at least until the next meeting. And we'll do some checking with the Public Safety Department and some other places. And we'll come back with a more defined background check definition. So if it's only felonies, it's just felonies, and that's, you know, we'll all be on the same page with more information. So I'm going to make a motion to postpone this ordinance till April, whatever.
Second.
Ray,
Yes.
Mr. Rich,
Yeah.
Mr. Grooms,
Yes.
Mr. Farley,
Yes.
Mr. Barker,
Yes.
Mayor Goodwin,
Yes. Resolution 6-22, resolution by Folly Beach City Council adopting the city of Folly Beach's 2022 update to the strategic plan. Have a motion for approval?
Second.
Any discussion? We discussed the updates. Okay.
Mr. Rich,
Yes.
Mr. Barker,
Yes.
Mr. Farley,
Yes.
Ms. Ray,
Yes.
Mr. Grooms,
Yes.
Dr. Houghton,
Yes.
Mayor Goodwin,
Yes.
passes.
So resolution 7-22, a resolution by Folly Beach City Council awarding the contract for services described in the RFP 3-22 for the construction of a public safety marine dock. And that would be to Charleston Dock and Wall.
Second.
Any discussion?
Mr. Grooms,
Yes.
Ms. Ray,
Yes.
Dr. Houghton,
Yes.
Mr. Rich,
Yes.
Farley,
Yes.
Mr. Barker,
Yes.
Mayor Goodwin,
Yes.
passes.
Resolution 8-22 is a resolution awarding $2,000 to the Folly Beach Civic Club for the annual fan camp program scheduled for Saturday, March 19th, 2022, and this comes from the Community Promotions Committee. So a motion for approval?
So moved.
In a second?
Second.
I think they only should get $2,000 if it's not the coldest day of the year.
Agree.
Mr. Rich,
Yes.
Mr. Grooms,
Yes.
Ms. Ray,
Yes.
Mr. Farley,
Yes.
Dr. Houghton,
Yes.
Mr. Barker,
Yes.
Mayor Goodwin,
Yes. Resolution 9-22, a resolution by Folly Beach City Council awarding the contract for service described in RFP 5-22, water main replacement.
Motion to approve.
Have a second? Any discussion? All approved.
Farley,
Yes.
Mr. Barker,
Yes.
Ms. Ray,
Yes.
Mr. Grooms,
Yes.
Dr. Houghton,
Yes.
Mr. Rich,
Yes.
Mayor Goodwin,
Yes. Mr. Grooms, would you like to start talking?
Sure, I'd like, basically, to everybody just take a moment and, say a prayer for peace. Things are obviously desperate in Ukraine. A lot of the, mothers and children especially are suffering. And so just keep them in your thoughts. And if you can't do anything financially to help, that would be appreciated, I'm sure.
Fan camp is March 19th. It's quickly approaching.